Ladies and gentlemen, welcome in. I'm Robbie.
I'm Jason.
And welcome to the table. We are so excited to have all of you here today. Jason, how you doing today, sir?
I'm doing well, man. We have some amazingly that's terrible. Some wonderful weather right now. I was trying to be very dramatic, and it wasn't. Amazingly amazing weather. I'm looking out the window. It's pretty fantastic weather for what we have had, at least in January and February, where we had like 17 days where it didn't go freezing or something crazy. But I think it's in the upper 60s. We may even hit 70 today. But then tomorrow it's going to be back in the 30s and snowy and icy. But then we're like 60s and 70s the rest of the week. So life is going well here. How are you doing, brother?
Hey, we are we're vibing, thriving, and surviving over here. My little guy just got sick, had RSV, so mom and dad have caught that because turns out when you have a 14-month-old, and one of the easiest ways for them to transfer the illness is by like coughing and sneezing. Just doesn't really have the control when you're holding him to not just like turn and you go like, "Hey, bud," and he just like coughs right into your face. So that's tough, but no, we're hanging in there. So I apologize for everyone. I love the game that we're talking about today. So I'm going to try to let Jason sort of drive the discussion and everything because I know that no one wants to hear my super nasally voice. But I've got a lot of thoughts on this game. I've played, I would say, I would be shocked, Jason, if you have more plays on this game than I do. Because I'm going to put myself in the like north of 25.
Oh, then you have significantly more than me because we've probably played it less than 10 for sure.
Yeah.
Less than 10. Over owning it for 6 years or 7 years. We play it less than 10.
Yeah, this is one I have played this back to back 3 times in a row. We've literally rotated who was the player or who was the ghost. And so, yeah, love this game dearly. But speaking of games we love dearly, Jason, what games have you been playing lately?
We've been playing relatively a bunch, because we're in fantastic February. Even though today's March 1st, we have 11 more games to go because we took a road trip out to see my son graduate from basic training. I don't think I ever sent you a photo, Robbie, so I have to send you a photo. Did I send you a photo of Xander in Blues? I can't remember if I did. So we're fantastic February. Every month, every February we play a game. I try to play a game, different game every night. We're in the middle of that, but we had to take basically almost 7 days off because we drove down to Texas and back. We got a couple games in during that time. So we played a ton, but then took a break. We'd play some more. So the 2 games I'm talking about are ones I think I've mentioned before in games I've played lately, but they just became to highlight for sure. The first one is Lord of the Rings Duel for Middle-earth, which is essentially a reimplementation of Seven Wonders Duel. This is 95% the exact same gameplay of Seven Wonders Duel. Seven Wonders Duel is a great 2-player version of Seven Wonders. Same way, the open drafting where some cards are face down and some cards are face up. The difference is that you have a track in which you're, instead of having the soldier track where you're pushing back and forth, you have an area control board in which you're putting units out and towers out on these 7 or 8 different areas of Middle-earth for area control. But you also have this little track where one is Sauron chasing Bilbo and Samwise. It's this cool little piece of the game, a separate piece that slides over, and as you're running, you're Frodo and Sam. If you play as Frodo and Sam, you're moving faster, or you could play as Sauron. So it's interesting, these little different aspects of the board, but the cards themselves are still the same. There's still green cards, there's still blue cards. All those things are on there. Fairly thematic in that if you're a Lord of the Rings fan, you'll enjoy and appreciate everything in there. You don't really feel like you're in Lord of the Rings, but the thematic nature of the area control and running from Sauron to go drop the ring in Mount Doom or whatever, and then the other cards you do are just all there. Lord of the Rings Duel for Middle-earth, super fun. I bought it originally and then gave it to Xander, but then I have it back because he's away right now because it's just a fun game to play. You know, I like drafting games, and so it's a fun one to play. And people, it is to a lot of the gamer folks, like it's taken over Seven Wonders Duel because they play Seven Wonders Duel so much they would rather choose this because it has a little bit of spin on there. So it's a great, like almost a perfect 2-player game for sure. I was winning the entire game. We've had a couple games of Fantastic February that was that way. I was winning massively in this game. It was clear I was going to win. But and it's still three phases. And halfway through the second phase, Elizabeth was doing a me thing and pouting because everything was going my way. And I almost said, well, you realize every time this happens, the other person wins. And sure enough, we got down to the end where there was an instant win condition if you had 6 different of the green symbols. And literally the last card she turned over that could be her card was the card to win the game. And so she got, I mean, doesn't discount what she did the rest of the game, but I won every phase of the game except this one thing. And then she had and she acknowledged a lucky pull at the very end to basically a card. I had to take a card, and that card revealed, now let another card open up. That card flipped over, and it was the perfect card for her. And so she won off a lucky thing there. And it's tough. Like, it's tough to lose, but it's easier to lose like that, if that makes sense. So I can handle losing like that.
Yeah, that's at heart of the cards, right? Yeah. It's I played my game, I did what I was supposed to, and the right card came out at the exact right time.
Yeah,
that's tough.
And that's the part of any game, like so many games we played. That's very much the aspect of those kind of games. So it's easy for me. Younger Jason would have a hard time losing like that, but older me is like it could happen for me as well, and it's tough. Yeah. The other game we played is Formaggio. I don't think we've actually talked about this. Fromage we've talked about, right? Yeah. Formaggio is this standalone sequel. Exact same gameplay. It's 4 quadrants. You're each playing in your quadrant. You're making cheese, but you're making it in Italy instead of in France. Fromage is based in France. Formaggio is in Italy. Excuse me. And so it's still the same idea where you're building stuff and you're moving around, but they've added a couple cool things where there's now seasons, like the middle piece in the board that shows, okay, I could choose to make cheese on my main quadrant. At the top of my quadrant, I can get structures or I can get cows or whatever. Now have seasons. And so there's other cards that are seasonal based, like one is spring, one is summer, one is fall. It's really just another scoring based kind of mechanism within there. So it adds that little bit of extra spin to it, an extra twist to it. I think we've played it now 7 times since December or November. And every time until last night was with Christopher and Mandy, because we played it with them, and then we took it, and then when they were here at Christmas, we played it, and then on our road trip, Mandy's like, well, just bring it again, because we'll play it some more. So we played it a few more times when we stopped in Tuscaloosa, because they just really like Formaggio. So we've played it now 7 times in like 2 months. It's fun. And then we played it yesterday, and I like doing all this stuff, right? Like the last few times I played, I rarely win anymore, because I don't. Not if I played better, I could win, but I'm so focused on just doing all the fun stuff that I get lost in the sauce and forget I'm trying to win for Fantastic February. Because it has a different mechanism in that, not a different mechanism. In one of the quadrants, you're technically in Venice and you're putting out cheeses, but then you're also sticking out these little gondola boats by it, and you're trying to score based on how many cheeses the gondola boats touch. And there's another one where you're making wine, but then it's you basically make cheese and you get this little piece, this little cardboard piece, and then you're connecting all these pieces later on side by side that have half bottles of wine. So you're trying to connect them to make more bottles of wine. The more bottles of wine you make, you get the more points you get. And then we also started drafting the bonuses at the top of the main. Each player board has the 4 things on top, the 4 areas which they can build structures to get additional abilities. Well, now we've started playing where we draft them, and there's all kinds of crazy stuff in there. And Elizabeth just built a really good engine on hers and just had it going well. And I knew very quickly, I'm like, holy, wow, you have 10 cows sitting over there, and the cows or the cattle let you go do free cheeses, and the stuff. I'm like, oh, wow, I'm going to lose. Yeah. And sure enough, I don't think I don't even think it was that close, but I had fun playing the game. So Formaggio was fun. Between the two, I think I like Fromage better, but not if I had to choose one or the other. And you can actually mix and match as well. You could do one quadrant from one and one quadrant the other. So, and there's some rules for how you mix and match that. So, but Formaggio is a great game. I don't think we've covered Fromage for Bards, and if we haven't, we definitely need to cover Fromage for Bards at some point.
Yeah. Yeah. Fromage, it's just such a cool concept because everything is so, when you think about creating cheese and a wheel of cheese, if that is the base concept, you're like, that's kind of hard to thematically fit into a game. Yeah. And somehow they've mastered it because just the placement mechanics and then how you get the workers back and the strength of the worker, all of it is really, really fascinating. So, cool. Yeah, I think that's a great possible inclusion. On my side of things, played some Disney Lorcana, finally. We're finding the rhythm, and then as soon as we find a rhythm, right, that's life. As soon as you find a rhythm, it gets disrupted a little bit, and so we felt like, hey, sort of getting our feet back from underneath, like back under us, new job, all of that. We're a couple weeks into this. Yeah. And then all of us get sick. So that's just out the door. Before we got sick, got to play some Lorcana, which was fun. Got to introduce a coworker to it. And it was there. He plays Yu-Gi-Oh! On his phone via an app. Okay. So he's played card games via that, but Lorcana was a first introduction, things like that. So yeah, really, really fun. It kind of relit the Lorcana bug in me. So organized some cards last night while Lindsay and I were watching some TV and just had a great time with it. So excited to be back on the Lorcana train. And the other one is, I have to tell you guys about a hilarious, geeky moment that happened last week. Last week, I was out of town or 2 weeks ago at the point of when y'all are hearing this. I was in San Diego for a conference for work. And my boss, the first week that I was there, said, hey, just so you know, we're going to San Diego this week. Go ahead and, we're going to book your flights and you're coming on this event. I was like, great. In this event, this is a camp conference. It is the American Camp Association, and I work for an accounting firm at its base. There's a lot more to it in terms of what we do, but a lot of the simplest way to think about it is that we do bookkeeping and accounting for folks. Do a lot of business strategy on the other side, but that's neither here nor there. So we're accountants at its core is what we're trying to sell. So it's really hard when you think about the other booths that are around us where you have like high ropes courses that have set up obstacles that you can like physically walk through during that. Or because of the camp conference, I never would have thought about this, but there was an Blue Bunny ice cream was there.
Makes sense.
And they just had free samples for everyone. Like just the big old ice chest. Walk over and get they have 100 grand ice cream bar now.
Oh, wow.
So go get your ice cream bar. Awesome. How are we going to get people into a booth for accounting? And whether a stroke of genius, I don't know. But I just kind of looked at my boss and I was like, oh, we should just play Mario Kart. He was like, what do you mean? I was like, do we have a TV in our booth? I said, yeah. What do we normally put on that TV? Well, we have like a little promo video. Okay. What if we just don't do that? What if we just plug a switch in and we just have Mario Kart set up? And when people walk up, we're like, hey, how do you feel about your accountant? And they say, oh, we love our accountant. He's great. He's been doing this for 35 years. Awesome. You want to play some Mario Kart? And they walk up and we say, how do you feel about your accounting? They're like, oh, we hate our accountant, which is a pretty common response. Man, I'm so sorry to hear that. You want to play some Mario Kart and talk about it?
Yeah.
And that's what we did all conference is we just played Mario Kart. And so then later on, as we started walking around, people would be like, they'd look at our company, ask what we do, and be like, oh, we're accounting. But we even would stop sort of saying we're the accountants. We'd be like, oh, we're the Mario Kart booth. People were like, yes. Oh, yeah, I know where you're at. So really, really fun. So got to play Mario Kart with a lot of people. And it's really fun watching professionals sort of fall back into that childhood joy of playing some Mario Kart, watching things go around. We had a mom and her sons. She had brought her sons to this event. She worked at a camp in Hawaii, which is super cool.
Wow.
And so she had her two sons with her, and they just kept coming back because, quote, y'all's booth is not boring like everyone else's booths. And they started, Jason, not letting. This made me think of what might happen early on with y'all's family, where they queued up and they just didn't queue another controller for their mom to play because she kept just obliterating them in the game. She was like, "What? You guys don't want to let me play?" And they're like, "No, you talk to that guy. We're gonna play." Great, do his job. So it was a good time. Mario Kart. What are you going to do?
Absolutely. I mean, any of those interactive things, you had mentioned to me before you were going to do that. I was like, this is brilliant, right? And like you said, your firm probably never would have thought about that. And they're not wrong for not thinking about that. It just didn't hit them. But it's obvious when you're trying to pull people in, like people... Because even older folks who've never played are familiar enough if they have kids or they have grandkids or they have cousins or nieces or nephews. They've seen Mario Kart. They've seen it on there. And so it's not some random niche Japanese racing game that no one's ever heard of, right? It's one that we all know and love because we know Mario. So it's just hook, line, and sinker all day. And like I said, if they don't, you left an impression. if they keep their accountings, they love it. They still had a good time at the Luca booth, and that's all that matters. So you never know. They may say like, "Hey, my account's really good," but if you want to look at somebody else, Luca's another one. They may pass along. So that's cool. And I'm sure it was fun for you too, just to basically hang out and watch people play Mario Kart and play Mario Kart yourself all day. So
yeah, it was a delight. So that was when I think about some of the things that the work opportunity world has gotten me to already. Like I was playing some games with friends last night. I was playing some video games, and we were chatting, and we were talking about the Switch 2, and I said, yeah, there might be a world that my company might be buying a Switch 2 for our vendor booth, and one of them was like, Robbie, didn't you just say that you work for an accounting firm now?
Exactly.
Like, yeah, exactly. That's why we have Mario Kart in our booth. It's like, oh, yeah, I never would have thought of that.
Yeah,
great.
That's wild.
Great. So that is games we've been playing lately. So that brings us to the mystery of today's game. Jason, do you want to tell the people what are we talking about today?
Yeah, today we're talking about Mysterium. We've referenced it before in previous episodes because of the designer and some of the stuff in there. So now we're diving in. It's right on time because I played it just a couple weeks ago for the second time in about a month. So it's good. It's really fresh in my mind. So Mysterium was released in 2015, designed by two Polish dudes, Aleksander Nevsky and Oleg Sidorenko. I don't know if that's actually how it's pronounced, but
crush that pronunciation, though. Even if it didn't, man, that was on it. I believe.
Published by Lulubu, which is a French company. Same company that does Stella and Dixit. 2 to 7 players, and playtime is 42 minutes. The 42 minutes is very interesting because it's very specific, but there are phases in the game that dictate. You'll play a little bit long because it takes time to go through stuff, but the principle of it is even on the box, it says 42 minutes, and I just always love that. It's so funny. Even on BG, even on Board Game Geek, it says 42 minutes. In Mysterium, players act as psychic investigators solving a murder, with one person acting as a silent ghost giving clues via abstract vision cards, the aforementioned Dixit cards we've talked about in previous episodes. To solve the crime, the ghost must first recall. So let me step back. One person will play as the ghost, and everyone else plays as mediums. So to solve the crime, the ghost must first recall, with the aid of the mediums, the other players, all of the suspects present on the night of the murder. A number of the suspect location and murder weapon cards are placed on the table, and the ghost randomly assigns one of each of these in secret to a medium. So it's basically the ghost is deciding who they're trying to get to guess the things. It's a little more well, I'll keep talking, then we'll go deeper in a little bit. Each hour, which is basically a round of the game, the ghost hands one or more vision cards face up to each medium. So the ghost is giving cards, Dixit-style cards, to players. These vision cards represent dreamlike images to the mediums, with each medium needing to deduce which suspect corresponds to the vision cards. Once the ghost has handed those cards to the final medium, they start a 2-minute sound timer. So each round is 2 minutes. They have 2 minutes to look at those cards. Once a medium has placed their token on a suspect, they may also place a clairvoyancy token, which is basically their way of guessing on people who's getting the right answers or not right answers on what they're guessing. After that 2-minute timer runs out, the ghost reveals to each medium whether their guesses were correct. So the ghost is basically telling them, yes, you guessed the right suspect that I was trying to get you to guess, or no, you didn't. The mediums who guess correctly move on to guess the location of the crime in the next round, and then the murder round, murder weapon, and following rounds, while those who didn't keep their vision cards will receive new ones that next round, i.e. hour, corresponding to the same suspect. Once a medium has correctly guessed the suspect location and weapon, then move their token to the top of the board and receive one clairvoyancy point for each hour remaining on the clock. We'll explain their clairvoyancy points later on. If one or more mediums ever fails to identify their suspect, location, and weapon before the end of the 7th hour, the ghost has failed, leaving the mystery unsolved. However, if they've all succeeded, then the ghost has recovered enough of its memory to identify the culprit. So there's one more final turn. On that final turn, the ghost privately selects essentially privately selects who they say the killer is, one person, one location, and one weapon, and then draws 3 vision cards. So same vision cards we've used earlier in the game, 3 vision cards to try to get players to only see those 3 vision cards to guess who the actual murderer was, the location, and the weapon. Each of the mediums then privately votes on who they think it is. If a majority of the mediums have identified the proper suspect, then the killer has been identified and the ghost can now rest peacefully. If not, well, perhaps you can try again. That was a very quick encapsulation of what Mysterium is, and now we'll kind of go a little bit deeper into the game.
Yeah. So when I try to explain this game to people, first off, it's very important to note because it kind of, I think it will be a tale that goes throughout all of this. We've talked about, Jason mentioned 2 other games that are in the same universe, and we've actually done an episode on both of them. So it makes sense that Mysterium is kind of capping it out, and that is Dixit and Stella. So when we say these vision cards, these clue cards, these are the same story-like cards that are very, very, I don't even know what the proper word to describe it would be. Interpretive is probably the right way. Would you say interpretive?
Yeah, I agree. So
left up to interpretation?
They're left up to, some are more clear. In Mysterium, they definitely get into wider interpretation, which we'll talk about, totally. Right? Because, like, for those who watch on YouTube, there's a masked person riding a train and a lizard running by, right? So the picture is fairly clear, but the interpretation comes out in how you give those cards out as clues, because you may be trying to somebody to hone in on the red, or hone in on the yellow, or gold, or hone in on a fish swallowing somebody, so maybe they're thinking about eating. So I think, to me, and I missed a part of that, apologize, Robbie, because I was grabbing these cards, but to me, the Dixit, because the backs of these cards are different, but you can play them. You can actually mix and match Dixit cards and these cards to an extent. But the Dixit cards get a little bit more abstract in some of their art on there. That doesn't mean it's better or worse. It's still the same artist. It's still the same kind of art. But some of the Dixit cards can get kind of wildly abstract with stuff on this. Where the Mysterium cards are a little more focused in on those main vision cards, the cards you're trying to get people to guess.
Yeah. And this game is cooperative.
Yes.
So when people often, the reason this game comes out for me a lot, and we've played it a ton, is when I find that I have at least 2 people who are at this game night who don't feel the most competitive. They're not looking to sort of cutthroat anyone. They don't want to play any gotcha games. They're very laid back. This is an easy one that we can kind of collectively work through, but also it's possible to quarterback this game, which is where quarterbacking is one person sort of telling everyone, you need to do this, you need to do that. The nice thing is that the ghost is part of the team, but cannot actually say anything to the people.
Right.
So if you have someone who really struggles to not stop quarterbacking, they're a perfect ghost.
Right.
Because they cannot say anything. And in their mind, they're getting the power to quarterback by giving the clues to people to guide them along. The other way that I describe this game is that it is like reverse Clue. So when you think about the game of Clue, classic board game, there are a bunch of rooms that exist, and there is a person, a room that they murdered them in, and a murder weapon. As Jason said in the description, all 3 of those things are still true here. But in Clue, you are given a certain amount of cards that give you guaranteed information. There is no hidden information in this game except for the ghost has all of the information is available to the ghost. None of the information is available to all of the information is available to everyone because there's just pictures out on the board. Yeah. But what belongs to what, the ghost knows, and you kind of figure it out along the way. So in Clue, everyone is trying to figure out inside this sealed envelope in the middle who is the person, place, and murder weapon. And the first person to figure that out, gets to the middle and guess it, wins. It's competitive. And this one, there is a person, place, and thing assigned to every single player. So if we've got 6 people playing, there are 6 murder scenarios drafted up. So the clue giver, the ghost, has to figure out how to get each person to guess their specific murder scenario setup, which sounds pretty straightforward until you realize that the way that they have to do it is these vision cards. So even the example Jason showed of this guy on the train, it's a guy on a train, there's a lizard running next to it. Jason looked at that card and he was like, maybe they're trying to get you to hone it on the red, whereas the most dominant color on that was the purple for me.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of purple swirling around on the, like, in the smoke and everything.
Yeah.
There's purple in the fabric of the train.
Yeah.
So I hone it on the purple. So if Jason gives me that card and wants me to focus on the red, and I'm staring at it, processing out loud, like, Jason gave me this card, purple, I gotta guess it's the person card that has purple in it, obviously. Jason is biting his tongue off behind the thing because he cannot tell me, you silly man, what are you doing here, bro? He just then has to realize I'm going to guess wrong, and then has to give me another card the next turn to try to get me to correct the guess along the way. I think when we talk about setup, that will also sort of help give people a picture of the board overall, because when we talk about setting up the board, I think that is really, really important for sort of visualizing this process.
Yeah, for sure. Because it's the setup can take a little bit of time because you're having to essentially, like Robbie said in the overview, didn't talk about it, but basically the ghost knows the suspect, the location, and the weapon that he's trying to get each medium to guess. So, and this is an aside, Robbie. Now that if we start an aside is that this may be the time with our new way of doing Bards that we may inject photos, like on the back end, like you finish it and then I just download the video and put photos here, because I have a photo of me behind the player board, which would be perfect to just pull up here. So this is an aside. Ideally, we'll start doing that soon, because I can do that end of it once we finish recording, start working on the editing, and I've been meaning to play on one of our old videos just to mess around with it, to get comfortable with it. But in future ones, anyway, to Rob, we'll get back on point now. But so it takes a little bit of time for the ghost to go through the machinations, the person who's playing the ghost to go through the machinations and choose all the cards, especially if you play the full player count of 7 people. 7 includes 1 for a player and 1 ghost and 6 mediums. We played it at 6, so the last time we played, I had 5 people. So it just takes a few minutes just to go through the process of it and to divvy everything out. But it is very methodical. It's very deliberate. So it's not much thought. It's just time consuming for it as well. But in a good way, but it's just time consuming. And the other one, but that once you lay that out, it starts, once we're doing that out, once we set that out, we step back. Often, as Robbie's talked about before, when we're setting up the game, we're kind of teaching it. For this one, it's harder to do the teach during it, because I've got to get these. To me, I've got to know, the ghost has to know when I'm playing the ghost who the suspect and all these locations are, so it's hard to quantify how I'm going to do that and explain it to somebody for sure when they do it, because the teach is, like so many other games we do, the teach isn't that hard. There's 3 phases of the board. Everyone's going to start in the first phase. The first phase is the ghost is trying to get the players, the mediums, to guess the suspect who's attached to them. And so the ghost is giving them vision cards, the Dixit style cards, that he's trying to point them to their person. Robbie just referenced that card could be so many different things, because I'll come back to the card we had. That guy has a mask. Your suspect in your card may have had a mask, or he may be wearing red, or he may be, an animal keeper, or he may look like a train conductor because there's a train conductor hat in there, right? And so as the ghost, I draw 7 cards up, and then I have to choose at least one of those to be something I give to try to give you a clue. And so there's fun in that, but there's insanely high stress trying to give that person that. So trying to teach how this goes through is a little challenging until you see it, because I'm going to the ghost gives cards to each person, they turn them over, and then now they start deliberating and talking collectively among them. Okay, oh yeah, that's clearly, that guy has a gun, there's a gun there, clear that's going to be my vote, right? And so after those 2 minutes go out, we go see if everybody's right. If everybody's right, they move up. Anybody who's not right stays there, and they keep their cards. So it doesn't conceptually make sense the way other games may, right? So many games we talk about. Lords of Waterdeep, you're going to play a worker, you're going to take resources, you're going to come back in the other round. Play a worker, take resources, come back. So many of the games we talked about is action, okay, in the round, go over. Well, this one is, okay, there's action, you talk, you vote. Some people go forward, some people stay in the previous phases. So now the ghost is giving out clues for different phases of different people. So the teach can be a little challenging, because technically you're the ghost, and so once you're the ghost, you're not supposed to talk anymore in the game, but also I was trying to teach the game as well, so it's this interesting dynamic balance of that. But once the gameplay goes, it's actually very black and white. The challenge is talking through what those vision cards do.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's funny Jason mentions it, but I can kind of show. I've got myself sitting behind this vision board posted up, and then I've got my players all. Yep. We had made it, and so they're all like huddled around trying to figure it out in the final stage.
Yep.
So, like Jason mentioned, you have all of the suspects are laid out, and then there are red herring suspects as well. So you're trying to get them to not guess one of those red herrings. And then everybody under the time limit, everyone gets a vision card. You flip them over, you say go. They can start looking at it. And then, boom, you are off to the races. You try to put each specter, or what are they called? Mediums. Each medium tries to guess which card is assigned to them. And so they guess. If they guess correctly, they take that card and they move on to the next stage where they guess the room. If they guess incorrectly, they're stuck on that stage and they have to guess again. Now, it all makes sense. If you get super far ahead, obviously, you have people that can sort of say, if you get super far ahead, there are a lot of options still available, so it's harder to narrow down. Whereas if people have already gotten past that stage, other options have been removed, so you've got a better chance of honing in on the one that you have. Now, also very fun about this is that people can guess the same card, which I think is really, really fun, and it's a feature of the game that is inherently a little jabby is the wrong word. There's a joking jester that can happen back and forth for folks in this aspect of the game, and that is the clairvoyancy that you get. So what's going to happen is I have these chips. I have 3 that's corrects, and I have 3 that's wrongs. So let's say Jason and Elizabeth are both, I'm the ghost, and I hand Jason and Elizabeth I hand both of them a card, and they're both looking at each other like, I have to be the war general. Like, this card definitely matches up. I've got to be the war general. So they both decide, well, it's one of us, so we're both going to put our marker on the war general. If Jason is firmly confident that he's the war general, he can put a chip next to Elizabeth that says, you're wrong. If she believes she is, she can put one next to, you're wrong. The rest of the table can also say, I actually kind of agree with Elizabeth here, so they can all put a chip next to her that says she's right. If you get it correct, or like if you get your prediction of wrong or right correct, you get a point in clairvoyancy, and you get that chip back. If you get it wrong, you lose that chip, and you do not get the clairvoyancy chip, or the point. If you blast through the whole shebang and you just go 3 for 3, which is I've actually never seen done, but if you did it, you get a bunch of clairvoyancy points anyways because you were just dialed in with the ghost. The reason you want these clairvoyancy chips or the points at the end is if everybody makes it through, you're going to go to a final round. Based on how much clairvoyancy you get, the ghost is trying to get you to guess. There's 2 stages of the game that everyone has to succeed at. The first one everyone has to succeed at is everyone has to figure out their person, place, and think. If that works, you go to the final stage. If you get to the final stage, the ghost then looks at the hand of cards they have and says, how can I get them to guess one of these murder scenarios? And then they start showing the clues. They show 3 clues. Based on how much clairvoyancy you had, you get to see a certain number of clues before you have to vote. And if the majority votes for the correct murder scenario, everybody wins. So you want to have this clairvoyancy. So it's a fun jab and gesture to come back to the point of the clairvoyancy chips, because there is almost always a moment where exactly that is going to happen. And it's usually couples that are playing with each other as they're going to have that moment of like, hey, I'm on this one. And you're just like, no, you are not. Like, I promise you, this one's me. And you both slam it down. And then sometimes the table's like yeah, I kind of want to stoke the fire on this one. This is hilarious. And so they'll vote the wrongs and rights. And then other times people are like, yeah, no, I'm good. You guys just duke it out.
Yeah.
You can't vote on yourself, so you can't be like, I know I'm this one, so I'm going to also give myself a I'm correct clairvoyancy chip or point. But yeah, do you feel like you've seen that happen, Jason, where it's like the clairvoyancy voting almost adds a stress relief moment to the whole thing because of like, I just think it just can't be that. Like,
Yeah.
it just can't be that.
Yeah, for sure. I've seen it. Not to the point where, me and Elizabeth are going after each other because I'm the ghost more often than not. Because the ghost has some of the fun parts, but also they don't talk the entire time. And they're just sitting there watching everything going on, right? And so, like, I'm not a cooperative game player, so that's why I'm happy being the ghost. But the stress relief of like being engaged in there is definitely on there, right? And it can bring up different dynamics within there, and it brings up that very good, interesting group discussion on there. Every player is involved in every single round of every single person, right? To an extent or not, because you're all talking through, oh yeah, it's definitely, okay, no, the last card was red and this one's blue, so maybe it's trying to do a purple thing and they're voting. And even when we played, on some of them, I had people voting yes. I think one particular people and two people voted yes, two people voted no. That's how split the table was and what they thought that answer was, right? And so that can be the fun of it. It's because, like, I understand you're thinking that, but you're totally wrong, and I'm voting no on that. Thumbs down on that. So it's an interesting thing for sure. Because we've all played cooperative games, we talked about cooperative games, and we're used to, okay, work together to make a decision, let's go. But now voting on whether we agree on what the decisions are is such a unique thing, and not something I've seen. I can even think of initially in another game. Wonderland's War, you can bet on the fight, so you're kind of engaged, but that's still based on chips getting pulled. You still have luck on what chips are getting pulled when you're wagering and when you're betting on who's going to win between a battle, right? Whereas this, it's this interesting outside dynamic that just comes in that can be very good, or can cause a little frustration if you're like, why do you not believe me, right? So no, it's a fun thing that it's hard to really explain what the purpose is, because essentially the more things you get right, the more clues you get in the game to make the final guess. That's really it. And in our game, of the 5, 3 made it all the way to the top, so you got to see 3 cards. One person only got to see 1 card, and then one person got to see 2 cards. So we actually had 3 people do really well with their votings and moving up. So but I played the easiest level, right? I chose by far the easiest level because I wanted us to have a good time.
Yeah, which is another thing that it's important. A lot of cooperative games have this inside of it for you to ramp up the difficulty. Yep. Where if you go, on the easiest difficulty, there is maybe 1 red herring card. Yeah, there 1 or 2 red herring cards.
In a 6-player game is 1 for sure.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So that way, then the reason that's like very helpful is because when you get to the harder levels, there are way more red herring cards. So if there are 7 of us, if there's 6 of us playing, there may be 9 or 10 options available. So there's a very real chance, especially if people vote on the same card, that you could have multiple people just on the same, like, you just never get past the first round. Like I have literally seen it on the hardest level where someone struggles so hard they do not even get their person in time because they're just voting on other people's cards, and then they're going to the red hair, all that.
Yep.
You also have the ravens. So from the ghost perspective, you have these ravens that let you reset your hand to a degree, because there's a time where I'm looking at the clues that I have and I need Jason to guess the seamstress. And so that's his person, but everyone else has moved on and I just cannot get a good clue to Jason for the seamstress. So what I can do is I can pop one of my ravens to reset my hand, which then allows me to get more clue card opportunities so that I can go forward and do that. Usually a smart play for the ghost is kind of save 1 raven for as late as you possibly can. That way, if you really get stuck, there's also no limit into how many clue cards you can give one person. Yep. So if there's 6 people playing and I have 7 cards, I actually don't have to give Jason a single card. I can just be like, you already have all the information you need.
Yep.
Look at your cards again, basically. Or I can look at Elizabeth and be like, here are 4 cards that you like, just see if you can connect those dots. So I think that's an interesting aspect of it. But when you increase the difficulty, not only do you get more red herrings, you also have access to less ravens as the ghost.
Yeah.
So there's more chances to miss and less chances to reset. So it gets very difficult, which is one of, I think, the biggest flaws that I see people play this game is nobody likes to walk into a game and say, I want to play the easy way out. So a lot of people start this game way too hard. They're not familiar with board games. They're not familiar with the Dixit universe. They'll start in the medium range, and it crushes you. Yeah. So I personally always suggest not going to the easiest, but going one tick up from the easiest. That's where I start almost all of my people that play for the first time. And the night that we did it 3 times in a row, we literally went that level, middle, medium, hardest, just to see. And it was really, really fun going throughout the night because we could lean back and say, oh, we've been successful and things like that. Yeah. But on the hardest one, we failed. I have never won the game on the hardest setting.
I believe it because it's so hard and you have to be so in line with that. And we don't play a ton. We don't necessarily play a ton of cooperative games right now. And historically, we played more in times past. But if I played, this is one I'd want to do on multiple levels. So I think if we've always done the easiest level or like the next easiest level every single time, because we play it so sporadically. Like we played it a few weeks ago and I played it over Christmas, but then before then it'd been a couple years since I played it. And so we just haven't done it enough. Whereas if I had a gaming group, I could easily play this multiple times, but I'd want to try those other levels. Because I don't mind losing if we're trying to get through and do it. If we're getting through and enjoying the process of it, like we talked about before, you and I have never played it, but there's a game called The Grizzled. It's a French game, but it's going to translate into English, that Christopher and Mandy had many years ago. We got it, and we got the expansion, and we've played it so many times, and have only won once ever. Like we probably played 20 or 30 times we played this game, and have never won a single time. But it was the fun of the process. Mysterium could be the same way. It's also where the stress on the ghost can get super sky high the harder that level is, because sometimes you just get not really good cards and you're doing your best because, like we talked about earlier, the card I give you could be based on the actual action, the hat someone's wearing, the fact they're wearing one glove and not a glove, or there's lots of red, or there's a spike, and I'm trying to push you towards something. And what's tough also, we talk about the red herring cards. I had this great, and I can't remember the specific, but there was one, I was giving Elizabeth a clue, and I was focused in on, okay, here's the perfect card for her thing. She's going to do it. But I missed, there was a rope on the card I gave her, and it was for the item, and one of the items was a rope. And she's like, oh, it's obviously that. And as soon as I looked at it, I'm like, and the rope was the red herring card. And so I was ignoring the red herring cards, right? Another thing that's stressful about being the ghost is as soon as I laid out and they told me that, I was like, I just lowered my head. Like, oh, it's all obvious. So she voted on, everybody voted on her. They all got it wrong. And so after the game, I was like, guys, I'm an idiot. I literally missed those red herring cards. So it's one extra thing as a ghost you get so honed in on trying to give those good clues out that you miss that, oh, I may be pointing you a different way if I don't pay attention to every other card that's out there. And that's the fun and the dynamic of the game. Like when it comes into the strategy of the game, the strategy really is more on the ghost and trying to give good clues. But then the players are trying to read what those clues are. I also had another very abstract clue that I gave to Marissa, and I think it was something to do with like a typewriter or something. And I gave her a thing of a chair, and she knew exactly what I was saying, but she kind of got. Other people gave her suggestions that put her off that path, but I was like, that was exactly, like we were right on this very abstract clue that was black and white. It was like a chair at a desk. And so that's kind of the fun on that, is trying to see if they can, without you as the ghost saying a single word the entire game, you're just giving out picture cards, vision cards with pictures on them to see if they're reading through that. So it is once you go through it and see how it's played, it just rolls. Like it flies through. The game length says 42 minutes. It's probably less than that of actual game time, but it just flies through because you have 2-minute timers for each round, and it's 7 total rounds and then one final one to do the guess. And so the game just like, it almost feels like it takes more time to put it up and take it down than actually play the game, and the game is still just fantastic.
Yeah, that's what I feel like it is 10 minutes minimum set up and teach. And Jason's right. Like once people are rolling, you know exactly what. And also, you just have rounds where once you do the first 2 rounds, everyone's like, got it. I know what this is. I know what I'm looking for. I think another 2 funny parts from the ghost perspective, because I'm a Jason, I end up playing the ghost 90% of the times that we play this game. is so the ghost has this vision board that is very reminiscent of like a dungeon master board for anyone that's ever done like a D&D campaign, anything like that, where they have this trifold in front of them and they have information on the backside. So inside of that are little pockets for them to keep track of everyone for their person, place, and thing. So for every big card that's out on the table for the mediums to look at, there is a miniature version of the card. And when I say miniature version, I mean we're talking like a 1x2 at most version of it. So I'm trying to get my mediums to guess about a room, but I'm looking at a very small picture of it. And so you can't, a way that I see ghosts cheat without realizing they're cheating a lot is they'll look at a card and then they'll like hone in on it here, and then they'll get up and they'll like peek over their board and try to look at the bigger picture of it. And I see it happen every time someone first time ghosts. They'll lean in and they'll do that, but they'll forget to like throw people off the scent and say like, oh, you need to do this. So like what'll happen is we have this trifold, and for Jason, you've seen this. For our video watchers, I promise if you play this game, this will be the exact scenario. So you got the trifold, and the ghost will like lean over and they'll look at a row and they'll be like, okay. And then they'll jump over, they'll look, they'll find that, they'll sit down, they'll look at it again, and they'll be like, all right, Elizabeth, here's your clue. And they'll just hand it. And so if Elizabeth's smart, she now knows like, okay, whenever he looks on that row right on that side, that's me. So free information. And it happens every time. Like every time someone first time ghosts.
I'm sure I did at the beginning, but I as you said, we played it enough that now I look. Like I intentionally make sure I look. Almost every clue I give, I look multiple places across the thing, even though every time I'm really looking at this one. And I try to intentionally look at multiple rows so I'm not giving information away, because it is so easy, because you forget everyone's looking at you at that moment while you're thinking through it. So it's definitely an easy thing to miss up on.
Yeah. But also if you're a ghost, stick with the theme as best you can, because sometimes what will happen is your ghosts, where I see a lot of groups fail, is the ghosts will start off with actually paying attention to what's on the cards. So Jason showed one of my favorite clues in there, which is this fish with its mouth wide open and two people are walking into the fish. And there is rooms. I love to save that one for the room, because there is a bathroom that is nautical themed. Yeah. But then there is also like a sailor's sort of like smoking room that also exists as one of the rooms. So there's two very nautical rooms. Yeah. And I vividly remember having that one, and I was like, oh, perfect. So I looked, and of all the rooms that were available on my board that I was looking at, the only one was the nautical bathroom. So I was like, check. So I hand that clue to the person, and then they were like, oh, it's a fish. It's got to be the sailor smoking room. Because that little red herring card just wasn't even on my board. So I had no idea to like think about checking for what could throw them off. Yep. So there's just funny little nuances of that. And then you get back to, and it's like, oh, we lost the game because like I ruined the whole turn by just giving you a clue that led to two cards. Yep. You didn't do anything wrong there. That's on me. So very, very, but like I said, it's just a lot of those. The clairvoyancy thing is really fun. I think for people who are not cooperative game players, this is near the top of my list for, if not the top of my list for cooperative games, simply because I feel like most of the time you get done, and unless you fail because one person didn't get there, it pretty rarely feels like an actual cooperative game. It feels like we're just kind of all on our own journey. And sure, there's not going to be a winner or a loser. We're either all winners or we're all losers. But yeah, it just doesn't feel very cooperative. I don't know if that vibe makes any sense, Jason.
Yeah, I agree. Like, because when you think about some of the other cooperative games we played or talked about, just or played in our life, I mean, there's Forbidden Desert, Forbidden Island, where you're talking together, then someone takes a single action, and then you talk together and someone takes a single action. Or Pandemic, you kind of talk and someone takes a single action. Whereas this one, it feels like you're all doing everything together, as opposed to influencing one person for an action, influencing another person for an action. So it's not what I would think is a traditional cooperative game. Marvel United, right? I'm going to take an action, but we're talking about, I need to do this move in this POW because it's going to do this, and on your turn you're going to do this. Whereas this one, it's not what I do affects you, what affects what you do. It's we're all working together to solve the thing, but I'm helping you do it. So it's not what I would define as a traditional cooperative game in that aspect.
Yeah. So moving down the list, I feel like like I said, I could go on and on about this. Replayability, I think, is super, super high just because the game plays so drastically different, whether you're if you're the ghost or the medium, it feels like an entirely different experience because it kind of is. But also just being able to ramp up the difficulties, huge.
Yep.
Huge.
Yeah, and there's so many, because the different difficulties, the different player counts gives you different dynamics of it. It plays fairly quickly, relatively quickly, especially once you play it once. Getting it reset up to go again will be much quicker than setting up the first time. So the replayability of this is very high. And hearing you do it 3 times in one night, I was like, you could get that done in less than 2 hours. 3 good games in less than 2 hours, and 3 meaningful games that you'll remember and talk about in under 2 hours is pretty good.
Yeah, especially because, like you said, it's one of the hardest parts is setting it up.
Yep.
But if I already have all the cards out and I don't have to because putting them back in the box, if I have a gripe with it, there's so many elements that this is one that if your box gets disorganized, you have added 15 minutes to setup time instantly.
Absolutely. Mine is, ironically, ours is still, it was the last game we played that night, and we left. I feel like we left pretty soon after that, and so my stuff is still, you can't really see it, but on top of my shelf over here is all of Mysterium still set aside because I haven't put it back in the box that has all the stuff. And if you ever, like Robbie said, if this box ever falls over and all these pieces get mixed up, it is. So I found my first negative of the game, right?
Yep.
They did their best. Let's be clear. With this insert, they did their best. A newer version would have a game trays where it latches on, there's a top to it, and all the pieces of it be in there, because there's so many little bits and bobs that it looks really cool, but it'd be better if they were in little bags, to be honest. If I was smart, I would get rid of this and put them all in bags, and that way I can give the pink player all their stuff, the blue player all their stuff, and I may actually do that. But you are right. If that ever gets messed up, it takes forever. And that's part of the reason my stuff is still sitting there, because I didn't want to put it together that night, and I'm like, I got to do it at some point, because it is a chore. If it all gets mixed up, to put it back in.
Yeah. But, positives, I guess if you check it out from the library, positives would be you don't have to worry about that. But also, as I'm married to a librarian, they will not feel kindly about you when they go to count the pieces afterwards.
This is true.
Yeah.
Be kind to your librarian. Be kind to your librarian.
Absolutely. But production side, I think it's amazing. I think the elements are really fantastic. It's got those classic Dixit cards. If you're all in on the Dixit universe, I agree with Jason. I think you can intermix these cards pretty comfortably. The backs will be different than the traditional Stella or Dixit cards, but if you were playing Stella or Dixit, I don't think that I would be upset to have those either.
Totally agree.
It would work just fine. In fact, in Stella, some of these would be hilarious because there are some more mysterious cards in Mysterium. So in Stella, I think they might actually shine. Yeah. I would be curious for y'all to play a game of Stella, Jason, and just use the Mysterium
cards.
Mysterium
cards, yeah. Yeah, I can see that. Definitely, I agree. For Stella, it would, because of the way the Stella clues work, it could be very cool.
Yeah, I don't own Stella, but I'm sure I could just generate the cards themselves. Just put 2 words on a card.
Oh yeah, you used to do it random. Right, you could do it on your phone, just random word generator, random noun generator, random adverb generator, right? And then you could just play it. And you just have to have your own score tracker, but it would be fine. You could do you wouldn't need to buy Stella if you put in a little extra work to do it, for sure. Yeah. The other thing I want to highlight too about the production is that the cards are really cool, but even the little, and I have one here. So the clairvoyancy tokens are kind of cool looking. You get a bunch of them. They're they're little bitty tokens that you sit out where you say, yes, I agree, that's the right one, or no, I don't. Or there's some of these have the check on there, say yes. They're very cool because you put them out there and you're pointing at stuff. Your player piece to let you know where you're at is actually like a little supposed to be like a little crystal ball. Everyone's player piece is that, and you know what phase you're in. But a cool thing too is, and I don't have it, but your round tracker is actually a little clock. It's a cardboard clock, but it's just really cool looking. You sit it out in round 1, okay, hour 1, hour 2, hour 3, and so it's just fun to see that, and that's how your round tracker is, and your clearance tokens go there as well. All the thought put into it, all those pieces of the production just all make sense, and it flows within the gameplay.
Yeah, it's a game that doesn't have a board. Like, there is not a technical, the most cardboard that is connected is the board for the ghost, like the trifold for the ghost. And for not having a board, it is one of the nicest looking boards that you'll ever play, because the cards it has little markers to represent the person, place, and thing. And so, this all goes above here, and the cards lay out beautifully. Yeah, it's tough to say that it's not a fair critique, but it's a good sign to me that a critique of the game is there's just too many good elements that I have to be ready for. Right? Like, there's too many good elements for me. I have to pack it up precisely.
Yeah, it's so like everything in there's good. And it's so good. If it wasn't there, it wouldn't quite be the same, right? All those things are needed. All those things that take a while to put up are needed because the cards are different sizes. The location card versus the weapon card and all those. So it just takes a while to put up, but it makes sense within there. I agree. Yeah. It's a good critique to have. It's a good problem to have.
Yeah. Well, cost. This is a game that if you told me it was more than $50, I would believe you. Yeah. Just based on the amount of cardboard that's in the box. There's really nice, high-quality cards because you're going to be using these cards a lot. Like Jason mentioned, a lot of the elements are cardboard pieces, like this whole cardboard constructed clock that creates something. And with all of that, still $44 on Amazon right now, which is, I would say, a fantastic price. This is one that I would buy 10 times out of 10.
Totally. For the gameplay you get, if you enjoy cooperative play, you can make it, jumping back to the thematic side, which applies to the cost because the value is worth it. You can make it thematic. There's a Mysterium soundtrack they've put out. You can play the Mysterium soundtrack. You can turn the lights down. You can put some candles on. You can go full on spookiness. It's not scary, but you can go, it's spooky because there's a spirit talking to a medium. If you embrace all that for $44, I mean, and the soundtrack is free. Just go find it on Amazon. I mean, or Amazon Music or iTunes. And we went and found it. I think I went and found it off the internet and played it straight up, but there is an actual official Mysterium soundtrack, but people have also made homegrown Mysterium soundtracks as well to go for that kind of spooky theme in the background. So it is definitely on there.
Yeah. Well, Jason, any final thoughts, or you want to jump straight into cookies?
Yeah, we can jump straight into cookies for sure. So my rating should be, with the way I talk about this and think about it, I would think it'd be a double doozy, but it's really just a chocolate chip. Because I never think about pulling this game out. It's a problem of having too many games. Like I'm getting rid of games. I have too many games because I have so many good games. It's hard for them all to be double doozies. And I don't want them all to be double doozies with respect to our game, with respect to our podcast, because it's hard to always choose from them. And so with as much as when I talk about it, I almost got swayed to give myself a double doozy, but I know that's not true. That's lying to myself with how much I enjoyed everything about this conversation. It's really a chocolate chip. If people ask to play it, I won't think twice other than be like, hey, give me a few minutes to get it set up. I would happily play it, especially if I'm the ghost. I like being the ghost. It's just fun to be that part of it, that just because I like gaming in that way. But I could be the medium as well. But for me, it's an easy chocolate chip that, if I played it more, could possibly double doozy. Like you said, you're well over 20, 25 plays. I am less than 10 total for certain. Maybe close to 10 over 6 years, right? And not a lot in the last few years. So if I played it more, maybe it'd jump up there, or maybe it'd go lower. Unlikely. But chocolate chip for me.
Yeah. No surprise. Like Jason said, if you play more, you could see where it climbs. And for me, it's going to be a double doozy. I thought about this one because of how much I love this game, there are 3 reasons that I think this is double doozy status for me. 1, not a cooperative game player, but this is a cooperative game that you do not have to convince me nor my wife to play. And Lindsay is not a cooperative game player. Like, if I don't enjoy cooperative games, Lindsay will straight up just not play.
Yeah.
If we're like, hey, we're all going to play Pandemic, for instance, is one of the probably the most beloved cooperative game of all time. Lindsay would rather sit in the room and needlepoint than play Pandemic because she just does not enjoy them. But she will play Mysterium without a doubt. So I think if you have cooperative players in your life, as I mentioned, if I have 2 people that I'm getting a vibe of, oh, they're not ready for even a game as simple as like Zombie Dice, where there isn't any stakes, you're just rolling dice. That can be overwhelming to them. Hey, we're going to play Mysterium. Have you guys ever played Clue? Oh, yeah, I love Clue. Awesome. Okay, this is Clue with a twist. Yeah. And we play Mysterium. Second reason that it's a double doozy for me is odd player counts. It holds 2 to 7 players, and it's really hard to find a good game for 6 or 7 players.
Yep.
With 6, you can somewhat sneak in some games. 5, you can sneak in a lot of games. 4, obviously, is like the most iconic player count in, I think, modern gaming history. But at 5, you can sneak in a lot of games with a lot of expansions will let you add that 5th player. 6, there's definitely some variance that could come. 7 is a really hard player count to not just make the jump to a party game.
Yep.
I feel like it happens all the time. So let's say that it's like, hey, we have, among my siblings, I have 2 brothers and they're both married. So if we were all to sit down, we're going to play this game. There's 6 of us. But what if my nephew, who's 9, wants to play? Boom. What game are we going to play? Hey, you could absolutely play this game. It works really well. So the player counts are really, really fantastic. And then the other is, the third why it's a double doozy for me is because of how much there's pressure that's applied to the game, which makes it kind of interesting. Like Jason said, I really love being the ghost because I feel that pressure. I think that no one has pressure on them as much as the ghost does. But because I've played the ghost so many times, I feel really gifted at like alleviating that pressure from other players when they are the ghost. Because a lot of the time, I've played this game so many times that there's not a card that's going to get played that I haven't probably tried to make work in some weird twist or fashion. So I have a lot of sympathy for our ghosts, and because of that, I can get out there and be like, yeah, okay, so guys, let's think about this. He's given you colors only. So why do you think that he just suddenly decided that the fish mattered on that card instead of like, there's only one blue room and the whole card is blue? You know what, Robbie? That may be true. I'll go ahead and give the blue. And I just kind of like look over at the ghost and wink at him, and they're like, bless up. That is, thank you, brother, because you'll experience it where you're the ghost and you're like, I didn't realize there was a rope on that card. That makes sense. So, yeah, I love this game. I think it's really great. It is, I said it's near the top of my list. It probably is my most played and my most preferred cooperative game out there. Yeah.
I can see that for sure. I mean, it's like, for all the reasons we said here, it's easy, especially once you start, especially once you have players who know it, and you get going even quicker, right? Always teaching new players is hard to go after the first couple rounds, and once they know the game, it flows so smoothly.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, y'all, that's Mysterium. I talked more than I thought I was going to, so I apologize, everyone, for my super nasally voice, but hopefully it did not distract you, and you can find the sweet ghosts talking to you on the other side and the sweet mediums of that. But we appreciate being back with you guys, and looking forward to, if you've got ideas for guests, Jason and I are going to put our heads together to start thinking about guest opportunities, because episode 55 around the corner. So see if we can't get a fun guest lined up to join us. But Jason, any final thoughts as we wrap it up?
No, it's good, man. I had a good time. It's good to be back.
Come on. Well, y'all, we hope you have an amazing rest of your day. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you guys in a couple weeks for episode 55.